Good afternoon. This is Whiskey 6 Bravo Delta Delta, George in Olathe, Kansas. Bringing you a couple things. First, short update on my Collins. So the Collins, for the most part, is operational. Um, Although I did have a failure, which was a little unexpected, but not not overly worried about it. So the original relay that was in the Collins linear looked like it had been arced. So I replaced it with another relay that was at the shop I work at. And it worked for a while and then it quit, um, mostly because of repeated solderings. The terminal on the coil came disconnected. So I found another coil, put that in, and same thing happened. And then I pulled the one out of the other Collins I have, and it was already disconnected. So I went on eBay, found another Potter Brumfield relay. So this is new old stock, and I checked the coil, and it's got continuity. So I'm going to try to put that in probably later today. This is Sunday, the 23rd at 1851 UTC, or for those that can't convert quick enough, it's 12:52 in the afternoon. So anyway, so I'm going to be putting that in. Um, so that's the Collins. The other thing, quickly mention, I've talked to W6LG, Jim Heath. He's not doing well. He's doing worse than before. I'm not going to go into specifics. I will let him do that if he can get on YouTube. Needless to say, he's been trying experimental treatments, and so far doesn't look like they're working. So prayers for Jim. If you can go over to his site and donate to him, that would be appreciated. And now for the main event, as they say. Um, write to me in the comments if you've heard this before. So you are looking for a movie to watch, and you come across some that have to do with gangs, mafia, organized crime, revenge kind of movies. Um, the the thrust of the movie is that the bad guys, the mafia or whatever, drug agents, drug dealers, leave a bag of cash or leave a bag of drugs at a open location, like a park bench, and some innocent bystander wanders by and sees this bag and says, I wonder what that's doing there. And they walk over and they look in the bag and they're astonished by either lots of stacks of bills or bags of cocaine or fentanyl or whatever. And nobody's around to claim it. Nobody's looking. So they pick up the bag and they take it to the police station and they turn it over to the police. And the police say, thank you very much. In case of money, they say, well, if nobody recovers it, you are entitled to it. And maybe later on, they call you back up and say, okay, the money's yours. In the meantime, the bad guys are pretty upset. You've just walked off with potentially millions of dollars in loot, and it's now in the hands of the police, or it's safely been turned back over to you. You put it in the bank, and you're fat, dumb, and happy. And then they turn their attention from monetary gains to revenge. So that's what they do. They go out and they look for you and try to eliminate you in some way, or make you pay, in other words, for what you did to them. I had this aha moment, and maybe some of you have already suspected this, regarding the ARRL attack, the internet scam break-in, where they went in and disrupted their system. The end result is they paid money, I guess. That's what I heard. They paid money to the people that infiltrated their IT system and planted ransomware. And everybody was all upset. They said, "Oh, you guys didn't do the right thing. You should have instilled cybersecurity. You should have done this." I say that it's easy being an armchair quarterback, but without knowing all the details. And to be honest, I was totally taken back. I said, why? I mean, we're not a bank. The ARRL is not a financial institution. It's a nonprofit. Um, they don't really have any cash money to transact. Yes, they have membership fees, but to be honest, everything we've heard that we're not cash rich at this point. So why attack the ARRL? There's no information. Everything that they could possibly want as far as personnel, people, operators, members. You look up their call sign on the FCC database, and you get all the information. You go to qrz.com or any other logging program, and you have our email. So what was the point? I'll make that clear in a little bit. So what happened? So last week I was watching a YouTube video. I was scanning through some videos I like to watch, and it came across an interesting one, and it's called "He Turned Their $1 Billion Scam Against Them." And I'll put the link in my video here when I'm done. And this was about an employee, former employee of the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC. And his name was Brad Katsuyama. And Brad Katsuyama was involved in buying and selling stocks and bonds and things like that for the RBC. And he did so well that they promoted him, put him in charge of a group, a specialty group for internet transactions, internet trading. And Brad, right before that happened, started seeing something funny in his tradings. So as soon as he pushed the enter button to make a transaction, he saw other people doing trading and the stock jumping up. And this happened repeatedly, and he did some tests and determined that it was not any kind of virus or any kind of ransomware or anything else. And I'm not going to go into all the details. That's all in the video. But this has to do with the software, or not software, sorry, I keep getting that wrong. The Shortwave Modernization Coalition. So if you haven't heard about this, but I'm sure most of you have by now, this is a group of electronic trading folks called, oddly enough, high frequency traders. And they got together, and they had gotten an experimental license. And so what they were doing is that they were trying to circumvent the internet, because the internet, since its inception, has gotten a little bit slower, even though the bandwidth has expanded and we're putting faster and faster ways in to transmit data. It's held up by routers and switches and all sorts of other things. So they were looking to circumvent all those switches and go direct as fast as they could. So they set up a system between Chicago and New York using HF band, the 2 to 25 megahertz band, and transmitting, I think it was around 20 kilowatts, maybe 200 kilowatts. It was either 20 or 200. I don't know. It's been a year now since I addressed this. And they wanted to modify the 2 to 25 band to expand to use commercial entities such as themselves. The point being is that every little, they've gotten it down to the microseconds and now probably nanoseconds delay that they want to circumvent. So they want to get the signal from one point to another as quickly as possible. They want to get in that trade. And it's just burst data. It's not like 10 minutes worth of data or 5 minutes worth of data or a minute's worth of data. It's milliseconds of data. Excuse me a second. So that's what the whole thing was about. So they filed this application or this docket to discuss this and see if the FCC would amend the amateur radio bans. And also, by the way, not just amateur radio, it also involves with commercial bands, marine communication bans, some emergency bans. So they sent it to the FCC and it was given a document or a docket. It's RM-11953. And they got all the information from this trade company. I call them a cabal. They're not just organized crime. I consider them cabal. So anyway, so they sent it to the FCC. The FCC opened it up for comments. Everybody and their uncle commented on it, and the ARRL addressed it. And I think the ARRL did an admirable job. I think they did a superior job of addressing it. The main player at the ARRL, I can't recall his name off the top of my head, but he wrote up the response, and subsequently there's been nothing. I haven't seen any further progress. I haven't seen any response. So they stopped these people in their tracks. Now we're talking about trading. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars being held up. This group potentially losing all this money, even possibly in the trillions over time. It was a loophole that they found a way around, that the Securities and Exchange Commission themselves set up in the early days of the internet. It was known as alternative trading systems. And back then, I mean, we were doing dial-up and things like that. The internet was just getting started, and you didn't have to worry about this stuff. But subsequently, yes, there have been major disruptions because of this kind of a system. So these folks are into it for billions of dollars. This is our cabal. The ARRL, the FCC were the people that picked up the bag and walked off with it. Subsequently, in this video about Brad and the Royal Bank of Canada, talks about the SEC investigations and tightening up these loopholes. So I think between what the ARRL responded with and what the SEC has been doing, and also Brad started his own exchange. Kudos to him. Sounds like a very upstanding person. Was more concerned about his customers than about all the money he could have made playing the same game. So basically that stopped this group. They were not going to be able to go out and transmit potentially megawatts of power within our bands and do all this trading and getting around all this system. So what would you do? If you were these guys, what would you do? So you've just been stopped from making billions of dollars, and you've got a government entity in your way now, and you've got this literally, I would say rank amateurs. I mean, amateur radios, rank amateurs, except for the professionals that wrote the paper in response. So what would you do? Would you retaliate? Yes. Yes. I think that's exactly what they did. And if you're thinking that these guys are honest under SEC control, um, I would have you look into what I wrote, because what I wrote regarding RM-11953, I went to the internet and I looked these guys up individually, and I found a lot of federal crime that they had committed, that they had to pay billions of dollars to the SEC and the federal government, and also other governments have banded together and gone after these folks. So these are not what I would determine or call nice people. So you've got a multi-trillion-dollar industry. These folks lost potentially billions of dollars. They have the means. Of course, they work with the internet. They work with trading. It's not a stretch that they found some people to do some nefarious things for them. I don't have any proof of that, but you put two and two together, you get four. So that's my theory anyway. I don't think what happened to the ARRL was about money. And I don't think that unless they had a ultra modern, sophisticated cybersecurity system that they probably can't afford, they wouldn't have been able to stop this. And I think that the ransom money was kind of secondary. I think it was more about retribution. I think this group of people were trying to get back at them, and to a degree they were successful, but I don't trust them at all. Reading all the things that I did on the internet, all the things I copied, put into my document, I think that kind of says everything. So I don't know. Tell me what you think. But in the meantime, I want you to support our hobby. And if that's also supporting the ARRL, I think that's great. I'm not upset by what the ARRL has been doing. I know some of the people locally in our district. So I know what they're involved with and what they're doing behind the scenes. I thank them for their help and their service. So anyway, that's it. That's the crux of it. I think we were attacked. The ARRL was attacked as part of retribution, not for money. So anyway, like I said, if you got comments, put it in there and say your piece. So anyway, thank you. It's a nice day. It's warming up into the 50s. It's going to be in the 60s this week. All the snow and ice is going to melt, and we're going to have a happy week. And I pray for Jim, and I hope that you all do well this week as well. 73s, Whiskey 6, Bravo, Delta, Delta, and I'm out.